Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform, and welcome back to another Operation Freedom special segment with someone I consider a very dear friend and someone who is, I believe, the most outstanding nutritional expert in the world. This is a fourth in our series, and I must say we have had incredible positive feedback from you, our viewers and our listeners, about the information we're providing, which is why we're going to be doing this on an every other week basis and post them on our Operation Freedom channel every Friday. A little background on Dr. Glidden. He attended college at Williams College in Williamston, Massachusetts. He obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in pre-medicine at the University of Massachusetts, his doctoral degree in naturopathic medicine at the Great Bastyr University in Seattle, Washington. He has been a member of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians since 1987, and he has been in private practice of naturopathic medicine and has been licensed to practice naturopathic medicine since 1992. In addition to his clinical work, he's an outstanding author, and I encourage you to get these two books. I must say, they are a foundation of our library here in the Janda household. We have found them to be immensely popular and immensely beneficial on networking the information within those books. The books are available on Amazon. Everybody is sick, and I know why, and Attempt a Cure with Holistic Medicine, both authored by the great Dr. Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform.
Always a pleasure to be here, especially with you.
Well, I'm going to tell that to my wife. She wouldn't. She would not even say that. No, I thank you. Our dog might, but she wouldn't. Peter, one of the we base our shows off of the feedback we get on the previous shows, and we were inundated with a significant amount of input from folks wanting to have information about digestive health. And one of the cornerstones to a person's overall health, and you've taught me this over the years, is a sound digestive system. Educate all of us on the importance of the digestive system and what we can do from a nutritional standpoint to enhance our digestive health.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but it really, most things in the world, when we're talking about things that are true, most things that are true are simple and pretty easy to understand. So this concept of digestion being at the root of human health is really not that big of a reach or that difficult of a concept to understand, right? I mean, you could have a brand new car, win the lottery, buy a brand new Mercedes, engine's perfect, the transmission's perfect, the tires are perfect, it's got the right kind of fuel in the tank, but if the fuel line is clogged, well, that's a problem. It doesn't matter how good everything else is, right? The car isn't going to go anywhere. So the fuel line in the human body, of course, is the digestive tract. And from the naturopathic point of view, all chronic diseases are intimately connected with the nutritional status of the human body. And quite frankly, lack of nutrition is one of the common factors involved in the genesis of all chronic disease. So the first thing that we attempt to do here is make sure that the body is getting all of the nutrients that it needs to keep all of its different parts running. I mean, that just makes sense. How are we going to get those nutrients into the body? Well, we're not going to do an IV drip every morning. We're going to eat food and we're going to drink liquids, right? And that's how nutritional stuff gets into the human body. Now, there are two things that are necessary here. Number one, we must be importing the right stuff every day. I mean, if all you did was eat sugar every day, you're probably not going to have a very good outcome, right?
Right.
If all you did was eat lettuce every day, you're probably not going to have a good outcome. So we need to put the right stuff down the hatch first. But second, we must do everything that we possibly can to assist the body in optimizing the digestion and absorption of that stuff.
Key.
Because if your digestion isn't good, if your absorption isn't good, it doesn't really matter how many nutrients you're consuming on a daily basis. You're just going to pass right through the system. So this is a fundamentally important thing to have handled. And it's kind of like, well, it's not a really good metaphor, but I'll run it up the flagpole anyway. If you and I are on a boat in a lake, little rowboat, and it's leaking,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in the front of the boat bailing it out, and I'm in the back of the boat drilling holes in the hull,
Right.
we're going to sink, right?
Exactly.
So we need to get the digestion squared away in order to optimize the body's ability to absorb and then utilize the nutrients that we're throwing down the hatch.
Well, let's talk about, because one of the concepts here, Peter, is bioavailability. Many people say, well, I'm eating a healthy diet. I'm even going organic. That should be, that should really keep me nutritionally sound as far as my gut, my absorption. Educate folks on the bioavailability, because one of the issues we've discussed on our Operation Freedom Health platform, which is a sister site to our Operation Freedom channel. By the way, full disclosure, the products that are listed there on the Operation Freedom Health platform, the longevity products, the purchase of those do support the Operation Freedom channel and network. And we're truly appreciative of that because they are the best products, at least in my opinion. I think you have this very similar feeling. But what do you say to the folks, Peter, that say, I'm getting everything I can with my organic diet. I don't need any other nutritional supplements?
Well, that belief is responsible. It's a false belief. It's responsible for more death, more human suffering than all world wars combined.
Yeah.
Simply put, it's a myth. It's like, the earth isn't flat, for goodness sake. Childhood labor is not a good thing. Not having women be able to vote is not a good thing, right? These were all culturally accepted norms years ago. This culturally accepted norm, this myth, this cultural myth, that you can get everything that you need just from eating from the 4 food groups, or maybe it's 5 food groups, or maybe it's 6 food groups.
Right. Right.
Depending on which side of the bed the FDA wakes up on, right?
Right.
It's ridiculous. And by the way, this is not, theoretical conversation. This is an academic fact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the research has been done, the data have been collected and published. The amount of nutrients that are in the food that we have access to here in the United States, and I would argue in all industrialized nations around the world, has been proven to have less and less and less and less and less and less over time of the nutrients that we need. So even if you owned 1,000 acres of the most organic farmland on planet Earth, and you only ate the stuff that you grew, that was it, you would still be nutritionally deficient, because the raw materials that your body needs, the 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 essential fatty acids, are not all present in the food. Some of them are,
Mm-hmm.
but many of them are not. And, this becomes the straw that broke the camel's back thing, because as time goes by, the nutrient deficiencies pile up, and then things break, and then you're in a pickle. So you must supplement. It's mandatory, right? We have to wear clothes to protect ourselves from the elements. We have to live in dwellings to protect ourselves from the elements. We have to drink water every day. We have to consume a certain amount of calories every day. Well, there's one more thing that everybody needs to do, and it's mandatory. It's not optional. Everybody needs to fill their nutritional tank up with the 90 essential nutrients. And if you do that, you're one step closer to optimizing your health, right? But even if you're smart enough to get that, understand that, and do that, you still have to attempt to assist your body in being able to absorb that stuff.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because if you can't absorb it, if your stomach's messed up or your small intestine's messed up, you're going to swallow this many and you're only going to absorb this much. And you're still going to be in a pickle. So we need to focus here on helping to optimize the absorption of the nutrients. And the first, second, and third things to do when we're talking about that, interestingly, it's not the supplements that we're going to swallow to help the body optimize its absorption. It's the food that we're going to stop eating that's going to help the body optimize its absorption. And there are 12 foods that we don't want anybody to look at, let alone eat. But of those 12, there are 4 foods which specifically have a negative effect on your digestive tract. And those are the grains that contain gluten. Those are wheat, barley, rye, and oats. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody on planet Earth needs to be gluten-free yesterday.
So those are 4 of the 12, and that's as a foundation where when folks want to enhance their digestive health and enhance the absorption of nutrients by staying away from those 4 entities.
Yeah, that's right. So, it makes sense, right?
Right.
If you took a hammer and hit yourself in the forearm lightly, you hit yourself in the forearm 2 times a day, every day, after a week, there'd be a bruise there. After a couple of weeks, it would be worse than a bruise. After a month or 6 months or a year, you'd be in a pickle because it's not good to hit yourself with a hammer in the same spot every day, right? It's not a good idea. You got to knock that off.
Right.
Well, when you eat gluten, grains specifically which contain gluten, and by the way, there's a lot of misconception, and most people don't even know what gluten is, right? Mm-hmm. Gluten is a protein that's found in certain grains. And it's the protein, interestingly enough, which gives wheat, barley, rye, and oats their elasticity. You see the pizza makers, they pound the dough and then they throw it in the air and it turns into a nice circle. It doesn't fly apart, right? Mm-hmm. It's because of the gluten protein. It gives the grains that contain gluten a certain amount of elasticity. And, you can argue that that's a good thing if you're a baker, I guess. But when the human digestive tract attempts to digest the gluten protein, it's really, really hard to do that. Most people's digestive tracts are weak to begin with, but even if your stomach acid was 100% healthy and you swallow the gluten protein or a grain that has gluten in it, very difficult for your body to digest that. So what happens is, instead of having an undigested protein land in your small intestine, you have a fully intact protein. Now, let's say we had a vacuum cleaner. And, the vacuum cleaner had a bristle brush in it. Mm-hmm. And we had a string of pearls on the carpet. If that vacuum cleaner tried to vacuum up the string of pearls, they'd get all jammed up in the gears and they'd hurt the vacuum.
Correct.
But if the string of pearls was broken, and instead of an intact string of pearls, there were just individual pearls on the carpet, the vacuum cleaner could suck that up, no problem whatsoever. That's a pretty good metaphor for what happens with gluten. An intact gluten protein is like a string of pearls that's intact. A digested gluten protein is like individual pearls. It's really hard for the body to digest the gluten. So what happens is, when the small intestine attempts to absorb the undigested gluten protein, it causes physical damage to the structures in the digestive tract which are attempting to absorb things. That's not a good idea, right? Mm-hmm. Not a good idea to hit yourself in the same place with a hammer every day. Not a good idea to damage the structures in your digestive tract 3, 4, 5 times a day by eating gluten. So, and these small insults, small injuries that happen because of the consumption of gluten really build up rather quickly and damage the very structures in the digestive tract that your body uses to absorb food. That's not a good idea.
So right now, Peter, there are a number of folks that say, wait a minute, I understand what Peter's saying. I understand what Dr. Glidden's saying, but I really, I like my bread products. Right? I like my bread products. Now tell me if I'm wrong, Peter, but for example, sourdough bread,
yeah,
right? Isn't that a little bit of a different animal when it comes to digestion?
Well, it is, but it's not, it's not a tiger.
Right.
It's a bobcat.
Got it.
It's not a house cat.
Yeah.
It's still going to hurt you if, nature prevails, and nature always prevails. And, it's a great question, there are a lot of people who have, these ideas. Well, we should just develop a digestive enzyme that can help the body digest the gluten protein, and then it won't matter what we eat. Well, good luck doing that. It will probably burn a hole in your stomach, right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Rather than try to figure out a way to mitigate the damage of a little bit of arsenic with every meal.
Yeah, got it.
It's probably smarter just to stop eating the arsenic, right? So now, this is a much easier transition to make. Going gluten-free is 1,000 times easier in 2019 than it was even in 2015. And I like to think that myself and my colleagues had a lot to do with that, because we've been on the hill trumpeting this for a long, long time, and it's finally caught on. So it's really pretty easy now if you go out to eat to order from a gluten-free menu. Most restaurants have a gluten-free menu. Go figure.
Yeah, very true.
Grocery stores have sections where you can get gluten-free bread.
Yeah.
Gluten-free bagels, gluten-free cookies, gluten-free crackers, gluten-free whatever you want. So it's much easier to do this transition now. And here's what I recommend people do if they still don't believe me, because old habits die hard, right?
Right.
People just don't want to give it up because it's the staff of life. Well, now again, there's argument from a historical biblical point of view that the grains that they were talking about in the Old Testament were different than the grains which are available now, but that's a whole nother conversation, okay? So, I think I just lost my train.
Oh, having the access to gluten-free products.
Yeah, so having access to gluten-free products is really easy, and it's really good now. And if you really still don't believe me, you want to take the gluten-free challenge, so here's what you do. For 28 days in a row, 4 weeks in a row, don't even look at gluten. I want you to be 100% gluten-free. Don't even cheat once, okay? No gluten whatsoever in your body for 28 days. Then, on day 29, all I want you to do is eat gluten. I want you to have pancakes for breakfast with wheat flour. I want you to have bagels for lunch or a sandwich. I want you to have pizza for dinner. I want you to have donuts for snacks, cookies and crackers that have gluten in it. Just go crazy for gluten on day 29. Wait 24 hours and see how you feel. And if I'm correct and your body does not like gluten, when you get away from it for 28 days and then you throw it back into the system all at once, your body will let you know that it's a problem. And that's a really good thing to figure out. It's a really good test to do.
So you give it a stress dose. You give it a stress test.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, it's an elimination challenge. Yeah, it's easy to do. And because, it's like cigarettes, right? I mean, you smoke a little bit every day, your body gets used to it. Right. So most people's bodies are negatively affected by gluten, but they've gotten used to it. And they don't even know that it's happening. Now, if I'm right, I mean, again, right, the truthful stuff is often simple and easy to understand. If I'm right and gluten is a problem, then it only makes sense that problem is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse over time, because what gluten does is damage the structures in the body that absorb nutrients. Now, there's not enough nutrients in the food anyway, so if your body is having trouble absorbing those nutrients, what do you think is going to happen to your health over time? It's going to get worse.
It's worse. And as you said, Peter, where we are today from where we were 3-4 years ago is light years different because of your efforts and a number of your colleagues' efforts. Because right now, I can go, obviously I live in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, and they're totally into, these types of stores. But I mean, there are several aisles of gluten-free products. When, Peter, if even those same stores 5 years ago, maybe you'd have a couple to choose from.
And they would be exorbitantly expensive.
Exorbitantly expensive, and frankly, taste really bad.
Really bad.
Now it's you do the taste test and you can't. It's like what?
I know. If most people came to my house for dinner, I mean, my wife's a remarkable cook, and we've been gluten free for like 9 years now. You would have no idea that you were eating anything gluten-free. A buddy of mine just got back from a vacation in Italy.
Ooh.
And, he's been taking my advice for the last little while. And he said, Doc, I couldn't believe how many gluten-free options there were in Italy.
Wow.
Right? The pasta capital of the world. So it's a good thing that this word is getting out. And it's a really, really good thing to dial in for your health, right? I mean, and again, think it through. If you had a brand new automobile and it accepted unleaded gas,
mm-hmm.
if every time you filled it up at the tank, you put, 10 gallons of unleaded and 10 gallons of diesel, well, not so good for the engine. And there's nothing wrong with the engine.
Right.
It's the fuel that's the problem. The human body's much more intricate than, a combustion engine. So you have to feed the body the right stuff. But the problem that we have here is that for the last 100 years, we've been letting the people who make the food tell us what food is good for us. And we've been listening to medical professionals with no training
right.
in medical nutrition
True.
tell us what to eat.
Yeah.
It's
nuts.
Nonsense.
It's nuts. So the foundation is we're going to get away from gluten. Now, what nutrients are then on top of that are key that we get into our system to enhance our digestive health?
All right, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a mind twister. Salt, and calcium.
Interesting.
Salt and calcium. So here's how the digestive system in the human body goes. Right, goes mouth, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The stomach is a great big bag of acid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're healthy, the acid in your stomach would be so strong that if you cut your finger off and swallowed it, don't do that,
no,
by the way.
No. Yeah. Don't do that.
Your stomach would digest it down to the bone.
Right.
Just from the acid that's in there. It's very, very strong acid, which is what nature intends. Your stomach needs to be populated, filled with strong acid, not weak acid, strong acid. Body needs two things. Well, it needs a lot of things, but there are two rate-limiting nutrients that the body needs in order to have strong stomach acid. And if you don't have these, you're going to have weak stomach acid. Weak stomach acid, of course, is going to prohibit the digestion process, is going to screw things up. And also, from our point of view, this is another mind twister. Weak stomach acid is the main cause of heartburn. Most
Interesting.
Their stomach acid's too strong. And it's virtually impossible for the body to make too much of something.
Right.
Like stomach acid. Can't do that. It's weak stomach acid that causes heartburn. Now, you need salt and you need calcium in order to have strong stomach acid.
And the best way to get those, the salt and calcium that's needed in the right quantities and the right relationship.
Salt your food so that it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of salt. Use salt liberally. Your body will let you know when you've had too much salt. And most people are on salt-restricted diets because of bad information from conventional medicine.
Right.
And when most people who've been on a salt-restricted diet start using salt,
yes,
a couple days into it, they start craving salt.
Huh.
Because their body is like super starved for salt. And your body knows. Your body will let you tell you most of the time. So you just follow your body's lead. Salt your food so that it tastes good. And I prefer real salt from the Great Salt Lake in Utah, but it doesn't really matter. Celtic salt, Himalayan salt. Just use salt on your food so that it tastes good. And hands down, way out in front of every other calcium supplement that I've ever seen in 30 years of naturopathic clinical work is Youngevity's Beyond Osteo FX. That comes in two forms, either the powder or the liquid. I prefer the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Powder, it's really just a preference. You like chocolate or do you like vanilla? Well, everybody's different, right? I prefer the liquid, not for any real therapeutic reason. It's just what I prefer. Beyond Osteo FX. And the recommendation is 1 bottle of that stuff per 100 pounds per month. So if you're 200 pounds, you get 2 bottles. If you're 250 pounds, you get 3 bottles and do 2.5, right? It's like that. It's 1 bottle per 100 pounds per month of the Beyond Osteo FX. That stuff changed my life. Just that one supplement. I could tell you some stories about that, but I won't bore your listeners. It is the most effective calcium supplement I've ever seen.
Now, Peter, that's part of the Healthy Body Start Pack. The tangy
Right.
tangerine, the fish, the essential fatty, the fish oils, and then the Osteo FX. That's in the Healthy Body Start Pack that we have in Operation Freedom Health. Does getting those other two components of the Healthy Body Start Pack, does that do anything for folks' digestive health as well, or no?
Well, yeah. I mean, it all, and the magic to this method here. This is what I learned from Dr. Wallach that changed everything, and this changed everything. Right before I met Doc Wallach, I, like most of my colleagues, did something called fractionated nutrition. Right, so we'd give lots of vitamin C. We'd do IV drips of vitamin C. We'd give B12 shots. We'd give a lot of vitamin D, a lot of selenium, whatever. It was like a couple of vitamins, right? Not a bad idea.
Right.
But a better idea, much more effective therapeutic process, strategy, intervention, is to give everybody's body all 90 essential nutrients, because they work in concert. For instance, if you take too much vitamin C, you're going to lose copper.
Right.
Because vitamin C wastes copper from the body. And, I mean, Linus Pauling was the poster child for copper deficiency. As was Albert Einstein, by the way.
Interesting.
So when we do fractionated nutrition, we run the risk of side effects, number one. And number two, the body is still deficient in many of the things that it needs. And our whole premise here is, you know what? Your body has innate divine intelligence. Your body knows how to fix itself. Your body wants to fix itself. Your body's trying to fix itself. So we don't try to micromanage anything.
Mm-hmm.
We just give your body all the stuff that it needs in doses appropriate for your body weight, right? And once we've got those bases covered with the foundation medical nutrition, which would be one Healthy Body Start Pack and one bottle of plant-derived minerals, one Healthy Body Start Pack, one bottle of plant-derived minerals. To that foundation, we then add extra digestive stuff. And in this case, it would be an extra bottle of the Beyond Osteo FX liquid.
Peter, earlier in this conversation, you mentioned heartburn.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to touch on this because we had a number of questions of this from our listeners that we explore this in this conversation. All we have to do is watch the tube, right? And it's antacid after antacid that's promoted for heartburn in this. Educate all of us on the heartburn issue, because you already started that conversation earlier about the fact that we all tend to think, wait a minute, that's too much acid, too strong of acid in my stomach. When in fact, as you've outlined, as a found, it's too little.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
My people are destroyed by lack of knowledge. So if I was able, through some fiat of legislation, to be able to eliminate one class of prescription medications from the world,
yes,
it would be proton pump inhibitors and antacids. And here's why. Again, it really makes sense, right? Your stomach's job is to digest stuff chemically with acid. And that's like the second step of digestion, right? The first step is chewing it up with your teeth and
right.
mixing it with your saliva, and then it goes into your stomach. If the stomach acid is not sufficient to the cause, the big lump of food that's in your stomach is not going to be able to be digested into a liquid. Mm-hmm. It's going to remain a big lump of food. And then that big lump of food is going to travel into your small intestine, where it should only be a pre-digested liquid.
And it's not.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. That's going to gum up the works, right?
Right.
What makes the food in the stomach sit there like a big lump and not get digested? Proton pump inhibitors and antacids. Because those drugs are very effective at what they do. What do? They completely obliterate the stomach acid in your stomach, and which is tantamount to, the logic that goes, well, you're overweight, It's because you eat too much, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut your stomach out, right?
Right.
We're going to do gastric bypass surgery. Well, it's kind of the same rationale, and it's really old-fashioned, outdated, and quite frankly, from my point of view, juvenile, right? So now there's an interesting little mechanism here. There are a number of chemicals, acids, digestive enzymes that show up in the stomach when food drops down into it. And each digestive acid capitulates the excretion of the next digestive acid. It's like dominoes.
It's like a cascade. It's a cascade.
Right? Cascade. So the first digestive enzyme that's secreted by the stomach when food drops into it is called gastrin.
Mm-hmm.
Gastrin. Gastrin accumulates a hormone. And gastrin accumulates in the stomach. And when the gastrin levels get high enough, hydrochloric acid is stimulated to be secreted into the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, hydrochloric acid needs chloride for the body to manufacture. Chloride comes from salt. Which is sodium chloride.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on a salt-restricted diet, your body is not going to have enough chloride to make hydrochloric acid. Even if the body does have enough hydrochloric acid manufacturing ability, it needs to be squirted into the stomach. The body needs calcium to do that. So if you're salt deficient or calcium deficient, you're going to have low levels of hydrochloric acid in your stomach, and here's how that goes. You eat food, it drops into the stomach. The body produces gastrin. Gastrin builds up in the stomach and calls for the production of hydrochloric acid. But the body either doesn't have it or it can't secrete it, so the gastrin levels continue to increase. Body calls for more hydrochloric acid, can't make it. Gastrin levels increase. Gastrin levels should only be this low because once the body starts secreting hydrochloric acid, the gastrin pump shuts off.
Yeah, suppresses it. Mm-hmm.
Right? So now we've got this much gastrin instead of this much gastrin, and when we have this much gastrin, there's a little valve at the top of the stomach. It opens up in the presence of gastrin.
Boom.
And the stuff in the stomach squirts back into your throat. And even if it's a weak acid, because gastrin, there's other stuff in the stomach as well. It's a little weak acid in there all the time, like lemon juice. When that stuff squirts up into your throat, there's no protective lining there, and you get heartburn. And then what does an unwise medical practitioner do? They give you an antacid or a proton pump inhibitor, which completely obliterates all the acid in your stomach. And then people wonder, why 2 months later they developed high blood pressure.
Right.
Or a blood sugar issue. Oh, it's genetic. Oh, it's aging. No, it's not. It was because you completely eliminated that digestive domino from the cascade. And when your stomach acid is not sufficient or is not even there. Okay, so when your stomach acid is not there, because of antacids and proton pump inhibitors, everything else goes to hell in a handbasket because the rest of the digestive process is completely screwed up. And now you're not absorbing anything from the food that you eat.
So to those people right now, Peter, that are saying, okay, I'm on all these antacids, and so right now, do people just stop those cold turkey and do your other recommendations as far as the Healthy Body Start Pack and the OsteoFX, or what should they do? Should they gradually wean those antacids? This is a generalized, this is not a specific recommendation for a specific person, but what's a battle plan on this?
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good question. It's a good question, right? So remember, the reason that somebody's suffering from heartburn in the first place is because something's not right.
Correct.
Okay. So now you take a digestive, you take an antacid or a proton pump inhibitor, and that, like sweeping stuff under the rug, it completely suppresses the problem.
Correct.
So if you just stop taking the drug, the problem's going to come back.
Right.
Because the root cause of the problem wasn't fixed.
Correct.
Right? So we need to do two things. Right? Number one, we need to give the body the raw materials that it needs to have healthy stomach acid, which would be the 90 essential nutrients, the Healthy Body Start Pack, plant-derived minerals, Extra Beyond OsteoFX, and salt your food so that it tastes good. My recommendation is that people do that for 7 days while they're taking their meds, and then starting on day 8, they cut their antacids or their proton pump inhibitors in half for 3 days, and then stop them completely.
Fantastic.
Most people, when they and you have to understand something. This is, we're so used to in this country because of big pharma. Taking the pill,
right?
10 minutes later, having no symptoms, right? We're used to the fast, easy fix, right? It's not really a fix; it's just mitigation. While you're doing this, if you haven't stopped the 12 bad foods, we're spitting into the wind.
Right.
Maybe 1 out of 10 people who continue to eat the bad foods would benefit from this program, but most people wouldn't. And it's a package deal, right? I mean, it's holistic medicine, right? We have to attend to the fuel that's going into the automobile as well as attend to tuning it up. So we eliminate wheat, barley, rye, and oats, right?
Right.
And then we get on board with the nutritional program, and then we withdraw from the meds. And most people, if they do it in steps like that, it's easy breezy, lemon squeezy, and all of a sudden, not only is their heartburn gone, but couple weeks later, they started having regular bowel movements without needing the coffee in the morning or whatever else it is they need to do to have a bowel movement. It's really pretty great.
And we have actually information on the 12 foods to avoid. You've kindly supplied that before. That's on our Operation Freedom Health platform. We also have the original video we did and the other videos we did on our OperationFreedomHealth.com website. We also have the 3 videos you and I did previously on Operation Freedom, the YouTube platform. Peter, I'd like to thank you for everything that you have done, are doing, and will do. Again, I really encourage folks, of the medical books I have at home, as far as references, the ones that I believe are the most comprehensive and truly address root causes of issues, looks at the body from the foundational level, are the books that Peter has authored. And I'm not just saying this because Peter's a friend or he's on. It's the truth. Everybody is sick, and I know why, and attempt to cure with holistic medicine. Peter, they are available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Available on Amazon. Also available at Glidden.healthcare, which is my website.
Yeah, give that website again, because a number of folks always ask me for your website.
Okay, so my last name is Glidden, which is like the paint. The easiest way to remember that is Glidden paint, right?
Right.
Glidden.healthcare. Or if you just do a Google search for Dr. Glidden, my website pops right up. And
we have the previous videos. We have the information on the 12 bad foods. We have the Healthy Body Start Pack and the other products Peter mentioned on OperationFreedomHealth.com. Peter, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. You're an incredible resource. You're incredibly gifted in taking care of people, but also you're incredibly gifted at really painting a picture for folks that big pharma, big insurance, big medicine have really tried to suppress and, if you will, obliterate for folks to have a knowledge base that you provide as it relates to their health freedom. And I thank you for that.
My pleasure, Dave. Keep up the good work, and don't let the sons of guns grind you down.
I'll do my very best, but some days, Peter, it's a little tough.
I get it.
I thank you, folks. Thank you for your time today, and as we always sign off, dream big and dare to fail. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.